Bama Blitz, brought to you by Bradbury Medical Center, offering durable medical equipment, including wheelchairs, oxygen, hospital beds, and more. 256-215-8654.
Welcome back to Sportz Blitz Live, presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and S&S Discount Tire in the Bama Blitz segment, brought to you by Bradbury Medical Center. Got Luke Robinson on the phone with us now. Luke, want to thank Mike Bradbury and his staff out at Bradbury Medical Center.
Yeah, really do. Mike Bradbury's been sponsoring this segment for what seems like a decade now, but we hadn't even been on a decade, so I guess that doesn't count. But we really do appreciate his support, and please do go check them out, Bradbury Medical Center.
Well, Luke, let's dive into Alabama basketball, and we've already unfortunately talked about Auburn basketball, so we'll shift down and talk about Alabama and where they are right now. And I heard you and Randy on Saturday Sports Countdown, and you said that Alabama might get off to the biggest smoke and mirrors 3-0 start. Unfortunately, they're not going to make that because they lost this past weekend to Georgia.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily unfortunately, Brett. I think that, this team did exactly what it's been doing all year long. With about 6 minutes to go in the game, no matter what the score is, they go into a black hole for 2 to 3, maybe 4 minutes, and by the time they realize what's going on, and by the time there's even a chance to fix what's happened, it's too late. This team really could have lost to Vanderbilt the week before without Vanderbilt's leading scorer in a game that they led the entire game, and with about 6 minutes to go, they just went to sleep. And to me, that is the sign of a bad coach, and I hate it. I can't stand it. I wanted Anthony Grant as bad as anybody. I really thought he was going to come in and do some great things here. He might still be a good coach, but he isn't a good coach at Alabama. The chemistry just didn't work.
Luke, are we past the point of no return with him as far as the Alabama basketball? Is there any way he can right the ship, or is there too much water over the dam to turn around?
I mean, you never say never. I mean, if he goes to Missouri and wins, and goes to Florida and wins, and goes to Kentucky and wins, and gets a bunch of other wins against teams like Tennessee and Auburn and Arkansas in between there, sure. I mean, yeah, he could definitely hang on. But right now, as things are trending, I don't see any way to turn this around because people aren't necessarily mad anymore. People are apathetic. And once you reach the point of apathy, it's very hard to get people interested again because they just expect the worst. I mean, look, Brett, I've followed basketball all my life. And the other day when the Saints and Seahawks game was on at the same time, I watched Saints Seahawks because I could have written down exactly what was going to happen in that Georgia game. And as soon as I saw Georgia go on that run to put them up about 13 points, I would flip back occasionally during a commercial break, but it was always the same story. So there was really no need to stay on that channel. It was just going to frustrate me. So I flipped back and watched the NFL. It's a very frustrating thing.
Well, attendance both at Alabama and Auburn, I saw a picture of the Auburn arena literally right before tip-off, and I was wondering if they had evacuated the place because there was nobody there. And I looked the other night, Alabama playing Vanderbilt, just wasn't very many people there. I mean, people, you're right, have become apathetic and disinterested, and when that happens, a change needs to be made. So I think we're coming down the stretch for both programs, but Alabama, I think, definitely has recruited really well in basketball, but they haven't gotten the results, and I'm with you. I think that goes back to the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, you can recruit as well as you want to, but if you can't develop anybody, I mean, I've said this several weeks in a row, how much better is Rodney Cooper or Levi Randolph since they first got on campus? I mean, how much better are they as players? And I don't think how much better is Nick Jacobs? I'm telling you, he played much better as a freshman to me than he is right now. I don't know why. I don't know that it's all Anthony Grant's fault. I don't know how to put my hands around it. But I know this, that it's been 4.5 years. I personally have seen enough to know that I don't think this is going to turn around. I hate it. I can't stand it. I wish it would have worked out. It sure doesn't look that way.
Luke, I can't let you go without talking about Lane Kiffin. The hire Nick Saban surprises the country, I think. And I read your article today. I thought you, as always, had a great article in the Alex City Outlook talking about this. And, I think for Alabama fans, I've heard a lot of Alabama fans say they don't like him. And you've been one of those, but it's about results. Can he come in and do what he needs to do to get Alabama going offensively? And that's exactly why Nick Saban hired him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is. I did the Talking Tuscaloosa podcast today with Jimmy Stein, and we were talking about the defensive line coach hire, which really wasn't that dynamic, wasn't a huge name. Everybody was looking at Tracy Rocker or Ed Orgeron, and it turns out they hired Bo Davis, who had gone from Alabama to Texas, then to USC for a minute, and then comes back to Alabama, and that was a very ho-hum hire. But I said, hey, after we hired Lane Kiffin, we needed something to average this thing out. We couldn't have Lane Kiffin, Ed Orgeron on the same staff, or Tracy Rocker. I mean, that'd just be too much going on in the football complex. I think Lane Kiffin, I don't like him. I mean, all I know about him is what I've seen, just like you, Brett. I mean, we obviously hadn't met the guy. He may be the world's nicest man, but all I can tell you is what I've seen when he reacts on television, or when he was the Tennessee coach and he went on a rant about Florida committing NCAA violations. And I just don't think those are things that you do. Now, those were several years ago. Maybe he's grown up. Maybe he's past all that. There's certainly that possibility. It's very likely, though, that the only two people in the country that like Lane Kiffin are Layla and Monty. That being said, if he will get the offense clicking, and I think that's one thing that is, the offensive numbers for Alabama have looked pretty good, but there's always something that doesn't look like it's humming along like it should. There are way too many talented offensive players on this team, like Derrick Henry, who didn't necessarily get their chances, like a Chris Black this year, that they should. A lot of people thought they should have. Definitely could have used Derrick Henry against Auburn, I think, instead of having T.J. Yeldon in there the whole second half, if we weren't going to play Kenyon Drake. So, I mean, I'm certainly willing to give him a chance. If Saban feels like he can keep him under control, hey, I'm all for it. I'm going in this knowing that I don't necessarily like the guy. If he starts winning, look, whoever wins, wherever you are, people will like you. That's why Louisville was able to rehire Bobby Petrino. If Bobby Petrino was a lifetime 500 coach, Louisville wouldn't have sniffed in his direction. But because he wins, people all of a sudden forget that he had a co-ed on the back of his motor scooter. I mean, that's just the way it works. When people do something bad, if they're talented enough, you will overlook it. That goes for Alabama, Auburn, Louisville, LSU, USC. It doesn't matter. So if Lane Kiffin can get this done, people will forget all about the pretty boy reputation.
Well, I said earlier in the program, if Louisville goes 12-0, we're not even talking about Garrett McGee leaving in the middle of the night, so to say. Bobby Petrino coming back after a boatload of lies, and then of course Grantham kind of got he's got a kind of a crazy eye to himself. He's done the choke sign to the Florida kicker, and has about slapped James Franklin after the Vandy game back in 2011. He goes to Louisville. But you're right. This young all season already in college football is already getting people hyped up. It's going to be an interesting year next year in college football, no doubt about it. But, Luke, we appreciate you taking some time out. We got to run, okay?
All right, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks so much. That's Luke Robinson with the Mike Bradbury Bama Blitz, brought to you by Bradbury Medical Center. Up against a break, we come back. Randy will join me, and we'll continue to take your calls. Stay tuned. More Sportz Blitz Live presented by JR's and SNS Tire right after this.